Today, I'll kick things off with what we hope will be the first of many successful discussions on using generative AI in marketing operations. And then I've asked Mark Lavelle, our CEO, to discuss about privacy and how it works with Eloqua. Okay, so it seems like AI is everywhere. I think this pretty much sums up just about how ubiquitous it might be for most people. It's almost as common as pumpkin spice this time of year. And the amount that's being invested in AI and the speed of innovation is, well, frankly, staggering. Um, if you want to get a recent example, just go take a look at Claude's new projects feature. It's simply amazing, and it's taking what has already progressed this year a long ways to a new level. For my presentation today, I'd like to start with a poll. And with this poll, I'm hoping everyone will answer the three quick questions. This will be completely anonymous, so hopefully you will take advantage of this and let us know. It's specifically on your use of AI in your company. So I'll pause for a few minutes while you have a chance to see the poll. All right, I'll give it just a second more to get the last few votes in. All right, let me end this poll and I'll share the results with you. So interesting, there's a combination of about 20% who are not using AI and 80% that are using some AI. That's interesting. Not many researching and so forth. But then when we look at the individual roles, not using AI at all, 50%, and then the other 50% using it in some areas, but not all areas. And then finally, what tools are you using? This is interesting. Got a nice wide spread. Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. I didn't give many options, but certainly those are some of the interesting ones. So good. So a good mix of people who are using AI and not using AI, and certainly is consistent with what we see. So so let's look at Oracle's progress on generative AI. So earlier this year, Oracle shared plans to improve its AI add-on. It's been around for a couple of years, although it's had limited functionality. And they have plans for improving the reporting, the segmentation, and content creation. I'm kind of looking forward to being able to get reports by just talking to it or doing a chat with it. So I think that would be very helpful for many people. It's safe to say that everyone is on a journey to incorporate AI into their products, including Oracle. And there are no shortage of suggestions on how to leverage AI at work, including many for marketing operations, from um, doing data analysis to doing checking and so forth. And we're going to share a couple of examples here today. Before I continue, I want to remind you that if you have questions, please use the Q&A option and go ahead and submit your questions there. Okay, let's move on to an example, creating a chart from a CSV or an Excel file. So this is pretty simple. I think everyone has done this multiple times in their career. You open a file, you select the data, you click through the chart creation process, and then, within just a couple of minutes, you get exactly what you're looking for. Well, that's not always the case for everyone. What if you're someone who doesn't create charts very often? or your skills are rusty. It's been a long time since you've done it. It can be a frustrating experience. And with enough time and so forth, you could probably get the chart like you wanted it. But as we've seen through numerous examples, um, chat chatbots, generative AI uh, is a much easier way to do it because then you can describe what you're looking for and iterate through different versions of a chart by just talking to it and saying, okay, I don't want a bar chart, I want a line chart. I need to have numbers on each of the endpoints. And you can see the results each time you iterate through that. And I can see very soon that when I open a PowerPoint file, it's going to automatically update the charts using AI agents, reaching out and getting the data. And maybe eventually, not right away, but maybe someday, it will do it for me automatically while I'm asleep because it knows that I'm presenting something today and the charts need updating. So that would be awesome. That's more like what you would see in Star Trek. So that's one area that I think many people have tried, just the simplistic things of creating charts using data to do basic analytics. So another one more specific to marketing operations is the process of just accepting a new project. So your marketing team creates something, they've completed the template, and they submit the information to you either via email, through a tracking system, and your first quick glance at it shows that there are several things missing. Or perhaps based on some recent best practices updates, you should probably give them some feedback so they can improve it. What typically happens is there's a lot of back and forth between you and the person who initiated the project because they're not at their desk. You send off a message, they get back to you when they get out of their meetings and so forth. This is really an opportunity to review the email initially using AI and provide some immediate feedback. So I'm going to show an example here. This is a session using ChatGPT on one of our own templates. And we've trained this chat to review the template for completion. It's going to check that all the required material information is there. It's going to review for obvious missing areas. Whoops, sorry about that. I'll have to start over. A little bit of mouse malfunction. I made that same mistake in rehearsal, so my apologies again. All right, so it's going to check through this. It's going to make sure everything is there. If you notice, there's a couple of things missing, and I purposely did that in this template for this example. So there are actually three things that it should find. Oh, there's the famous insert new quote to do item on the screen coming up. So while this is checking, it's going to be looking for the different elements that are included in your template and making sure that all of those elements are available. It may not be able to do everything because it may not have access to your file system, but it's going to do its best to do that. And then at the conclusion, it's going to give some recommendations on what to do next. Now, the way that we have been exploring to use this with our clients is to give feedback immediately to the request so that it can be part of the record and let them know that either, hey, we're missing a few things, or I have a specific suggestion to make. Or if it comes back and everything is in order, it can give them a confirmation that everything was there and thank them for it. And they can, again, add that to the record. We're running a lot of experiments with AI. And here are some other different areas that we're experimenting. We've created one that checks HTML for responsiveness. We have many clients who prefer to use HTML because they get very precise control over how an email behaves in the different clients. And so they want to make sure that it's going to work in all those clients, but also it's going to behave in the responsive mode the way they expect it and have the different elements in the correct order. You can do brand consistency checks. You can validate field merges. Two of the more interesting ones we tried recently. One is the email sanity check. And this is, I think, familiar to everyone who's worked in marketing operations, in that you are just about to activate the campaign, but you ask yourself, should I just check it one more time? Well, why not send a test message and send it to an AI and ask it to review it for any kind of mistakes that it can find? um, Grammar, spelling, formatting, lack of call to action, and so forth, and let it be another backstop that you can use to prevent potentially a bad email to go out before it goes out. And then the last one is something that Mark worked on actually recently and made some great breakthroughs here. Um, we turned a demonstration for a feature that we were working on. We had someone demonstrate it. It was not intended for consumption, but we took the transcript of that and we asked Chat GPT to, or excuse me, in this case, Claude.ai to turn it into documentation. Now, it took a few steps, not very long, but in about 20 to 30 minutes, we were able to have some very good documentation for this, a very good feature, at least a tremendous starting point for us. And we think that this would be very useful for internal documentation. I've already started using it. I recorded some documentation uh, for new employees to consume, and it's working very, very well. All right, so in summary, generative AI is here. You can start by applying it to your existing processes. We encourage you to adopt an AI first mentality and, of course, experiment. In fact, I'm going to jump over to one of my questions um, that is out here. It says, are these tools readily available or are these proprietary to Forethought? So the answer is that they are still experiments for us, but we would be more than happy to have a conversation with you about how you could take advantage of these. So please get in touch with us and we can discuss it further. It often might depend on the tool you're using, so we may need to adapt. But, again, we're here to help and make you as successful as possible. Like I said, experiment and learn how to leverage AI. And that we hope that as you uncover different opportunities to use AI, that you will share with other professionals. Share it with us. We'll put it on office hours like we're doing here, or we'll even invite you to share it with others and you can take the stage and share with others. So that concludes my remarks. Are there any additional questions? Let's check here. Give it just a second. Mark, is there anything you would like to add to this?
Um, yeah, just one thing really quick. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Sure.
Um, I'm going to go ahead and replace your share, and you should see my screen for a minute. And I'm going to put something on my screen that I didn't plan to put on my screen, but I think ties into your presentation so well that I'm going to. So this is a diagram you will see in my presentation in just a couple minutes. To create it, I typed those three items, those three lines right there. This is another diagram you'll see in my presentation. I typed 4 line items. There's another present diagram. I didn't actually save it here, but I typed those 6 line items. When you see those diagrams in today's presentation, be aware that I created them using AI in about 2 or 3 minutes per diagram. It is really a game changer for preparing for a presentation like this. And big part of marketing operations is reporting upwards and establishing processes and procedures between team members and communication. And diagrams help with that. So AI can help in that dimension as well.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. All right. Why don't you just continue, Mark?
All right. Thank you, Richard. My name is Mark Lavelle, co-founder of Forethought Marketing. Excited to be here. Today, we're going to talk about privacy, key concepts, and strategies to maximize marketing. That's the big one in red, and remain compliant. We want to do that too, of course. Today we're going to be talking about 4 strategies. As you can see, they are a big mystery, unless you have an eidetic memory and remember the diagram that I showed you a couple minutes ago that I created. Right now, I've got the bulk of that diagram covered up, though, and I have here at the center, maximize marketing. We're going to jump into these 4 strategies right now. We're going to start at the bottom. And strategy number 1 down here is enhance transparency and trust. Now, enhancing transparency and trust is an interesting one because it sounds at first pretty generic, pretty vanilla, and kind of obvious. And it is, but very few companies actually focus on it. How do you get those opt-ins? How do you get those people to give you that data? The answer is you get the heart of their opt-ins by getting the heart of their trust. If you put them in the center of your customer experience, they will trust you. Now, getting that trust is not easy. And there's 4 sort of marketing techniques, or is it 5? We'll see in a second, that are about how to broadcast what you do. But before you broadcast what you do and just claim it and just basically put marketing spin on it, there is a master secret. And that master secret is kind of obvious. It is to be genuine. It is to genuinely trust customers, genuinely protect and value customers' privacy, and to earn that trust and to be transparent in how you do it. Um, Building a culture within your organization of respecting customers' privacy and having it be part of the campaigns you design and having it be part of the products and integrations that you build is not an easy process. But if you do that first and you are genuine about it, it all bleeds through and makes this next slide I'm going to show you real easy. The next slide is sort of how to unlock that transparency and trust in the heart of the customer, unlocking those opt-ins. And this is through some fairly obvious methods. The first is let your salespeople know, broadcast to them, tell them to broadcast to the customers how you protect their privacy, how you respect their privacy, and be transparent and make sure your salespeople have those emails and documents close at hand that says this is how we allow you and enable you to at our organization protect your privacy and direct us and tell us and teach us and control us in how we use your data. Next method is social communication. This is don't just do it and be it. Let the world know. Now, obviously, you don't want to make every social post about this, but I think it's a great idea, maybe once a month, to make one of your social posts specifically about how you are progressing, you are pursuing, how you are building respect and considerations of your customers and prospects' privacy. Next, put it on the preference pages and have a preference page. If you don't have a preference page, you kind of by definition aren't giving your customers the ability to control what you do with their data. And if they can't control it, you're not really trusting them to control it. It just means you're sending them whatever you got. So again, give them a preference page, let them control it, and then let people know it. And on that preference page, put down your policies. Make sure your transparency that you're talking about up here is conveyed really through all of these various channels. Next, put it on your emails. Definitely put it on your landing pages. When somebody is right at the point where they're considering, am I going to check that little box? And they, at that point, have a moment of decision. Or am I going to click in that email on that link? If somewhere visibly, it very clearly, very simply states, we respect your data, you can always opt out, we're only going to send you this sort of type of stuff. You're really clear on whatever that policy is right at that moment of choice. That will build that trust, get those opt-ins, and hopefully enable the customer to trust you. Now, remember, after you do that, actually do it. Respect that policy. And lastly, put it in your content. Make it part of your content. Your social communication is kind of one thing, but at the bottom of your content, embedded into your content, when appropriate, of course, not constantly, invest in marketing and promoting that transparency and trust. Concept number 3, going backwards, number 2 in the going backwards list, we're going to increase first-party data. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because there have been whole webinars around leveraging first-party data for maximum marketing. So I'm not going to go into what each and every line item on this screen means. I'm sure you've seen a number of them before. Again, there are whole presentations which we have given and Oracle Eloqua has given on this subject. But third-party data is now gone, and people in many cases are still treating first-party data with the same indifference that they used to. Lean into making sure that you're grabbing at every point in the customer conversation that first party data so you can use it. When customers leverage communication channels, that it's in and of itself is first party data. So is frequency preferences. I have to mention, just because it's part of my job description, that we have technology for preferences that helps you to do this in conjunction with Oracle, Eloqua, and Marketo. And then there's a number of strategies. Again, I'm not going to go into them. You've probably seen these blown out in great detail in previous presentations. Bottom line, though, and just in general, remember item number 3 on our list, leverage that first-party data, increase the quantity of first-party data by leveraging and making use of all the possible capture points. Number 2. Now, this one is an interesting one because it is a strategy, but it's a bad one, in my humble opinion. A lot of companies use it because they can't implement technology or they can't get past their legal. And that is the approach of least common denominator. Now, the least common denominator approach to privacy compliance strategy, if you want to call it such, is basically, let's just take the biggest laws. I guess that'll be GDPR, and let's just implement that everywhere, around the whole world. Just that one's strict enough that if we abide by that, we'll be okay. The problem with this is, while it is incredibly easy, needs hardly any tech effort, it shuts things down. It limits you to the maximal capability as opposed to the last item on our list, the last strategy on our list, which gives you which empowers you to abide by the laws to exactly the degree you were required to do. So while this is a strategy, we don't recommend it, but it is a strategy. So we have to present it and include it on the list. Next one. And now you can see the diagram, the same diagram that was in the AI tool you saw a minute ago. And that is targeted compliance. Now, targeted compliance is where you target the exact laws and abide by the exact laws that exist on a worldwide basis for each and every country. Where you have to abide by GDPR in Europe, you do so. Where in Germany there's actually slightly stricter laws in GDPR, you comply by those as well. When in the United States, in California, you have to comply with CPRA and CCPA, its predecessor / combo law, you do comply with it. But in the state next door, where you're not required to comply with it, you don't. You maximize your marketing. And so this is definitely a technique for maximized marketing. Now, does it require a tool, a capability, or a heavy investment in spreadsheets and customization of Eloqua? Yes, there are different ways you can do it, and it does require some technical investment. Let's take a look at these strategies, and especially targeted compliance, in the context of marketing reach versus complexity and effort. Okay, so on one definition, we have complexity and effort high up here and low down here. Okay. Simultaneously, in the horizontal dimension, we have our success, or I won't say our success, but rather our reach. And this is our maximum reach, and this is our minimum reach. So if we look across these 4 dimensions, the sort of quadrant down here where, hey, it's really easy, but you can't hardly do anything, we have, yes, lowest common denominator strategy. Again, it is really easy. You just do it, but you can't market anymore, right? Everybody is shut down. Most of your contacts you can't reach out to. Another approach, or another quadrant here, is things that are really difficult and you're accomplishing minimal marketing. And This obviously is a place you want to avoid, but I have seen and do see companies implement efforts and strategies that end up putting them in that group. They end up abiding by a lot of laws, but they're doing it in a manual method or in a custom programmed effort that takes a ton of marketing, doesn't allow for the dynamics of the changing laws, the dynamics of the interpretations of the laws, the legal adjudicated, a court ruled conclusions that allow you to sometimes increase your marketing because those custom systems or spreadsheet or manual approaches, they don't tend to keep up. They can't keep up because you don't have a whole crew of software developers and people working to keep them up. The third approach, or the third one, this is my favorite, of course. Of course, it might be because I'm slightly biased. Oops, I'm sorry, wrong direction. Because we have a product that does this, and that is targeted compliance. Targeted compliance is more difficult, especially without technology. That's how you can end up over here. But it definitely enables maximum marketing because you're absolutely complying with every law. But in Brazil, where you can do a few things that you can't in Europe, or in the United States, where there's states where you can do a lot more than you can do in Europe and Brazil, but not in California, you're not exactly leveraging the laws to abide by them where you're required to, and leverage maximum marketing where they're not required. And then there's another third of a fourth item here, and I think it's an important one to mention, and that is to apply the strategies where financially appropriate. And the reason this one is valuable is because there are places, especially if you're up here, where you're doing targeted compliance, but you realize you're doing targeted compliance in a country where there's almost no revenue or there's almost no market. And in those cases, there are strategies where you can apply the right laws where it's a valuable and it has a good ROI for your organization, but not worry about applying the laws and investing in places where it doesn't provide an ROI. So in conclusion, there's the two diagrams that we've seen before at the beginning of the presentation, somewhat ironically. You want to find the right balance. It's a balance between easy and difficult. Sorry, difficult, I cut off there. It is a balance between not enough marketing and maximal marketing. And for your organization, your budget, you want to find the right balance. It may mean you end up somewhere that's kind of over here. There are various combinations of solutions that are in this range, but you probably don't want to be down here. And if you're up here, you only want to be up here with excellent tools and teams that can enable you to do that. You want to be genuine, broadcast the fact. That will enhance transparency and trust. And if you are genuine and you broadcast it and it is true, customers will get that. They will opt in more. You will get more first party data. You will be able to use more of what you have. And then finally, leverage technology. That will give you better preference pages, better compliance, allow you to maximize your marketing, and really enable you to lean into the optimal of that maximum marketing ease approach. And that's presentation. Any questions that have come up? I see one over here. Richard, maybe you want to read it? I don't know.
Yeah, I've got it for you. So this question came in, and I think there were submitting this as part of the just the title, but they asked the question, how do you handle Robinson lists? And Robinson lists are like do not call or do not contact kinds of lists with your privacy strategy.
Sure, that's a great question. So Robinson lists, there are private organizations that provide Robinson lists, but I think more appropriately or more relevantly, countries are now providing Robinson lists. For example, Turkey was one of the first that did this. I think it's called the IYS. I forget what it's called, something system. It's a Turkish word, but it's their equivalent or of the words message management system. And many other countries do too, obviously, that weren't the first. And then even before you have message management for email, you can go back to, the United States has the do not call registry, which those of us in the United States are probably familiar with. It is a Robinson list that is a type of compliance, maybe not email or messaging compliance, but if you look at calling people or telemarketing or telesales to people, then that national do not call registry may be something you would want to load into your privacy compliance system. And how do you do it? It's pretty simple. You need to determine which lists are appropriate and important and relevant, again, from sort of an ROI and revenue and reach perspective. There's only one person in one country. You probably don't need to, upload the whole country's list to see whether they've opted in or out or not. Probably find out the hard way on that one if you need to. But you can load those into Eloqua with a special field that is checked off when you load them. That can indicate Robinson list, or it can indicate do not communicate, and then include that in your segmentation. If you have a product like For Comply, you can build and or use pre-existing connections to those lists and have those loaded and checked off automatically. And just as a quick overview for those for folks on the call, not expecting you to memorize all this, and I guess you'll have the recording if you care. Belgium has a list that allows people to opt out of direct marketing communications. The UK has something called their mailing preference service, but that one is really for direct mail. So unless you're doing just like in the United States, calling, or in the UK, direct mailing, that's probably not important. Canada also has a do not call list. There is a mailing and telephone combination service in Finland. France has something called the List Orange, the Orange List, where you can opt out of both emails and SMS messages. And in France, interestingly enough, it also allows you to opt out of social media communication. So you can effectively, in that country, be required to opt out of, LinkedIn messaging and WhatsApp messaging and Facebook messaging. And so it's a pretty broad law there. Italy, Spain, Sweden also have some lists that are individual to those countries. Sweden is telemarketing, the others actually are email, and Australia has a do not call list. So as I was going through that, hopefully you captured whichever country is important to you. And you can go get those lists, upload them into Eloqua, or upload them into a product like For Comply, and maintain that automatically. And make sure that those are segmented out. If there's any follow-on questions to that, pop them in the question or chat list. Any more questions, Richard?
Nope, that's all we have today. So we are at the end of our time. So let me go ahead and close this. But before you go, I do have a couple of items. As a special thank for attending